everyone, and welcome to a very special episode of my craft podcast. It's not going to be quite as the way I've been doing it the last couple of episodes, and by last couple I mean the only two I've done so far. This one is all about this sweater, which is my first ever knitted sweater that I have finished. I say that because I was working on a chunky sweater made with bulky yarn that was like a cabled sweater, and it was like a front panel, back panel, two sleeve panels, then you seam it together kind of thing. And that fell apart because I had bought the recommended amount of yarn, but turns out that didn't quite work out because I was almost done the first panel, and I realized I would not have enough yarn for the second panel, let alone the sleeves. So I ripped that out, and I've used that yarn to make baskets and stuff because I also realized I didn't like how it was working up. It was just a bit too rough. Wasn't really fun. So I ended up making this sweater, which if anyone is recognizing this garter panel, it is the Flax Sweater from Tin Can Knits. I first saw this on the Drowning in Yarn podcast from Caleb, talking about it being, I think he was talking about it being his first sweater that he made, and I can see why it was recommended as a first sweater pattern. It was very approachable, very simple, and the way that they described it, basically they gave the instructions as you normally would receive in a knitting pattern, but there was a little bit more preamble, a little bit more information about fit and sizing and things like that, a little bit of information about like positive ease and negative ease, and some pictures of people in it that said, oh, this person's wearing it with positive ease, this person's wearing it with X number of inches, negative ease sort of thing. So you really got to see a wide variety of that, and any technique they gave you a link to. So this is all part of a series that they have from Tin Can Knits. It's a collection of free patterns that are great and beginner friendly. I'm excited to do a couple more of their stuff because while they're beginner friendly, they're not boring. They have a little bit of fun, interesting, like stitch details and textures. So for this sweater, the interesting fun thing is one, there's Raglan Shaping here, as you can see. A little bit of Raglan Shaping. I really like this Raglan Shaping. I'm actually quite proud. So I started this sweater probably in early, I want to say sometime in 2021, I started this sweater. And I was still fairly new to knitting at that point because I had not yet made this. This is what made me good at knitting. This shawlography from West Knits is what made me good at knitting. So, like, this amped up my knitting skills so much. So I started knitting this, which it's top down, which I really enjoyed. I know that I eventually want to try something to bottom up, but if I'm doing a bottom up, I'm going to have to do a provisional cast on because I have a very long torso. Like from armpits to waist is very long, but from waist to hip is very short. It's a very weird like torso shape I've found for sewing and knitting and all that fun stuff. So I'm glad for top down to get a good length on this one. So I did like all the complicated bits, the Raglan shaping, like the neckline, the Raglan shaping, and then the splitting into the body before I really knew what I was doing, because I got to about the armpits before I did this. This took me a long time though. This didn't take me the 1 month that you had for this, the 4 weeks. It took me until January of 2022, so it took me from October 3rd to 6th, whatever it was last year, to January 2022. So it took me that long to do this, which for someone who is really new at knitting, I think that's a pretty good test of my knitting skills. But then when I picked this sweater back up, it was like here. So I've already done the complicated, like fun bits. I'm now doing these straight, because I mean, I don't know if you can tell how tall I am, but I'm 6'1", and not only that, I made it with a lot of positive ease because I wanted it to be like a comfy, like loose, like I wanted the sleeves long, like I wanted this kind of vibe. So it was a lot of just straight knitting. Because it's stockinette stitch, but in the round, because there's no seams. So it is just a lot of stockinette. And I had not yet really gotten the hang of TV knitting. Like, now I can easily knit while watching TV, and I don't even have to look down that often, because I can just feel if my needle has gotten into the stitch right. So I didn't really have a hang of that, so it was just a lot of focus to get the body done. So before this summer, 2022, I got the body done and one sleeve done. And then I hit the sleeve issue. So most people say, as soon as you're done a sock, as soon as you're done a sleeve, anything you have to do two of the same thing, cast on immediately the next one. I did that. I actually took my held stitches, put it on the needle. I didn't actually cast on. I put my held stitches on a needle. So it was kind of like this needle and cable is taken up by this project. So if I want to use this cable and needle, I have to finish the sleeve. So I just didn't do any projects that use this cable and needle. Because in the summer, I was like, I don't want to knit this giant sweater because if I finish it, I'm not going to be able to wear it. But in the last couple of weeks, it's been getting a bit chillier and chillier, and I've been like, ooh, maybe I could finish that sweater before starting the Twists and Turns mystery knit along. That would be fun. So I spent this past weekend and I banged out my second sleeve. And this morning I had it on my steamer and steamed it because this is actually acrylic yarn. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the yarn, but I steam blocked it this morning so that the sleeves would lengthen. And I didn't steam block it flat. I steam blocked it hanging on my steamer because I have a clothing steamer with like a really big, like the hanger part is really big and thick, so it's not going to leave creases in the shoulders. So I did it on that so that the body could hang and pull down a bit and the sleeves could hang and pull down a bit because I have experience with steam blocking acrylic yarns and I know that they can stretch quite a bit. So I, on purpose, left it a little bit shorter than I wanted it, the final product to be when knitting it. And that actually saved me a couple rounds of stitches because so I did the 19.5 inches for this from our underarm to before the cuff. I did that, which is what it recommends in the pattern, but I actually need a little bit more than that for what I'm going for here. Because I wanted like this. I wanted a little bit of the sleeve on the hand situation. I thought about putting thumb holes in my sleeve, like binding off a couple stitches before the cuff and then casting on while doing the cuff so that I had a little hole there, but then I decided against it. I'm a little bit regretting that now because I think it would be so fun to have some like built-in thumb holes here, but maybe what I could do is put some loops on the inside where my thumbs land and put like some thumb loops so I can put my thumbs in it so that they can stay over my hands like this because I'm a very big person. I am 6'1". I've got very long appendages and I have never had a sweater that actually goes this long. I have never had a sweater that actually goes this long. I've had plenty of sweaters with built-in thumb holes throughout my time. I was an emo kid, come on. And I've never had one that can go this long. This is the most exciting part of knitting for me is making things that actually fit me that I've never been able to have in my life before. So this sweater has been really fun for that. So one thing you'll also notice is I did color blocking on this sweater, which I think looks pretty good because this pretty much lands like on the underbust area. And I think that the color blocking looks fun, a little bit modern with a nod to history, you know, to the 60s and color blocking and mod and kind of things. So I'm really happy about that. But the reason I actually did that is that I had this yarn. This is Lion Brand Ferris wheel in the colorway Sprinkles, I think. I had bought 2 cakes of this yarn. And I was crocheting a shawl, and it turns out I had just not enough left. And when I ran out, I checked online, and Lion Brand had it sold out at the time, and Michaels had stopped carrying Ferris wheel at all. So for a while, I actually thought it was discontinued. Turns out it's not discontinued. You can actually get this yarn on Lion Brand right now. Not sponsored, but I mean, if you like this yarn and the way that it works up, maybe you want it. I don't know. So I ripped out the shawl, which was a process because this is, it is acrylic, but it is designed as a roving yarn. So it's not twisted, it's not wound. It's just one ply. It's basically just a one ply yarn. Which though it not be wool, it kind of was felting together. So it was kind of a process. So I ended up taking my project, holding it in one hand, and using my ball winder on the other hand, and then just pulling it. If it got snagged, I just kind of pulled on it to like separate the fibers, continued ball winding. That ball ended up looking nasty, so I took that ball off and then wound another ball from that ball. So it looked nicer. It looked a lot nicer. And I decided I would mix it with black because I thought black goes with everything. I love wearing black. I know that knitting with black is a bit of a nightmare if you're not used to it, but because it is mostly just straight stockinette except for the garter panel on the side, mostly because it's straight stockinette in a seamless construction, you're just doing knit. That's all you gotta do. So you don't really gotta worry about your eyesight and losing the stitches and things like that. So I just kind of went for it. I don't know if I would ever knit with black again. We'll have to see. I think, because I knit with black here, but I think this is different. This is using black as a framing color. Like, it's, a bit different than knitting an entirely black sweater or things like that. The black yarn is actually Bernat Premium, and I think there's some Bernat Super Saver in there too, because I don't know if you can tell. Yeah, you can totally see it right here. There's like a line right here where the blacks slightly change color. And that's because I had some Super Saver left over, and I was like, close enough. And this is coming from someone who wears mostly black. Like, as a goth, life's too short to match blacks, folks. I know that there's this whole thing about using the same dye lot and all that stuff, and I know that can be really important for color, but when it comes to black, I'm just like, y'all, it's black. Who cares? It's close enough. It's good enough. So, and honestly, you guys probably couldn't even tell that it was different tones of black until I pointed out the line. Because, it was actually kind of difficult for me to find the line again. So, is it really that different? Is it really that difficult? So, what did I think about working with these yarns? I think that this project, as well as this one wasn't as bad, but this project really solidified for me that I don't really enjoy knitting with acrylic yarn. I much prefer a natural fiber. In fact, I prefer knitting with wool, for sure. And cotton, I do like cotton and I do like bamboo, but I think that knitting, my preference is wool. When it comes to crochet, the funny thing is crochet, I love acrylic. I've tried crocheting with wool before, or a wool blend, and I much prefer acrylic for crochet. That is for sure. So don't think I'm a weird yarn snob or anything now, but I'm just when it comes to knitting, just the way that it feels in my hands and the way that it moves through my hands is different, because crochet, I tension with my left hand, but knitting, I tension with my right hand, because I'm an English knitter. I'm a thrower. Because that's how my grandmother taught me, because my grandmother taught me the knit stitch and the purl stitch. She did not, however, teach me how to cast on or how to cast off, so I still say that I learned to knit properly in 2020, even though when I was a child, I could do the knit stitch and the purl stitch. So I still call myself a new knitter. But at this point, I would say I'm a little bit more intermediate, maybe. Obviously, I'm starting to go into some crazy techniques and color use and shaping and things like that. I recently did a beautiful cowl from, I think it was their Instagram is not, their Instagram handle is not their actual, like, shop name, because I think it's PNW Knit Designs on, yeah, PNW_knit design on Instagram, which is the Pacific Knit Co. I tested her Mellifera Infinity Cowl, and I love color work. I love color work. Stranded color work is so fun for me. So I think I might venture into some color work sweaters, but I know that will really change my tension because I knit color work a little bit tight. So I may have to like up a needle size or something to get the sizing right. But overall, let's talk about this pattern itself, the Tin Can Knits pattern, when it comes to sizing. So I would say this is a fairly size inclusive pattern. This goes up to a size 6XL, which is 66-inch bust. That is the finished bust for the actual sweater. So if you want negative ease, something that fits a little more fitted to your body, you could probably be up to, because this fabric stretches quite a lot. I think that you could be even up to a 70-inch bust. I will say the bust and the hip are the exact same size in this sweater. It is very straight, but there is instructions for how to add some shaping if you want a little bit more increase at the hip. So you could do that as well. But I think you could go up to a 70-inch hip or bust in this pattern. That's if you want a fairly fitted garment. So I made the size 4XL, which is the 58-inch bust, which for me, when I'm wearing, this is like a bralette situation, but if I'm wearing like a proper like bra, you know, when I'm wearing like a proper bra, I'm a 54-inch bust. So this is a 4-inch positive ease. I very purposefully went for something very big. And that is namely because I didn't want to do any body shaping. I wanted it to be fairly boxy and kind of blousey here, but a little bit tighter at the hip. And that's because my hips are 60 inches and 58 inches to 60 inches is actually a 2-inch negative ease on the hip. So that's what I did. But I mean, as you can see when I stand up, it actually ended up being looser. Despite my gauge actually matching the gauge of the pattern. So I think that might just be the nature of the acrylic yarn, and when I steamed it, it just separated a little bit, but that was the intention, was to have a tighter on the hip, a little more blousey here at the waist, kind of more baggy look. So I think that this could be a very size inclusive pattern, and I think it would be fairly simple to size up even further than that if you take a look at the pattern and like how many more stitches are you casting on, how many more stitches do you have, that sort of thing. I think that could be a very, if you're like adventurous beginner into intermediate and you can start recognizing those patterns in the math of a pattern. If you can start recognizing those patterns, I think you could easily size it even larger than the 6XL. But I think even going to a 6XL is very good because usually in knitting patterns, I'm usually the largest size, and I'm don't get me wrong, I'm fat, I'm tall, I'm big, right? Like I'm a size 22 to 24 pant usually, sometimes 20, like 20 to 24. Is like my range, which when compared to like the average plus size person, I'm actually on the smaller end of a plus size person, right? So it's just kind of funny looking at things from that perspective, because when I think of size inclusive for me, like I actually can get a lot of, not like commercial sewing patterns, but like seamwork sewing patterns, for example. I am the second largest size. I'm either the second largest or largest size in some of their older stuff, but they are now going a little bit more size inclusive. So I'm actually like maybe the third or fourth from the largest end, which is really great to see because I want more of my plus size friends and people to be able to make things for themselves that fit and look nice and they're proud of. So I'm really happy to report that the Flax Sweater from Tin Can Knits is a very size inclusive pattern, and I could see them adding more sizes in the future maybe if there's a need or a demand for it, but obviously that's up to them if they'll do that. But I think going up to a size 6X with a 66-inch bust / hip, I think that's a very good place to be. I think that's a great place for releasing a pattern. And I think I would like to see more pattern companies follow their example when it comes to sizing. So that's a bit on my sizing inclusivity rant. But yeah, I would say if you are I would say this shouldn't be your first project ever. I think that making a smaller project is better for a new knitter. I don't recommend scarves for new knitters at all. I think that to learn the stitches, you can make some squares and use those as like either a gauge swatch or sew them together into like a square cardigan or something. But you really don't need to make a scarf to understand how to knit and how to purl. You can just do that in a swatch and you'll be fine. I'd say stick to something a little bit smaller, like maybe a pair of mittens or a hat. A hat is probably better. It's 9 a.m. In fact, I'm planning to make I believe it is I've got it open here. Yes, I'm looking at doing their maze pattern, because it's all these beginner collections is based on like flax, maize. It's all like grains and things, and they're focusing more on texture and simplicity of construction, which is amazing. And the maze mittens have a fingerless mitt option, which I think I need because my office gets really cold. And I have some little fingerless mitts that only go down to here, and they only come up to here, like right above. But I want some that like go up to my fingers, so that I still have use of my fingers, but most of my hand is covered, which is great for typing. It's great for knitting when it's a little bit cold, kind of thing. So that's the idea. I'm planning to make those next. Obviously, I do have the knit along coming up soon, but I think I could finish those mitts pretty quickly because they are a worsted weight, and this is the yarn I want to use. If you watched my last episode, you'd recognize this as the hand-dyed yarn I got from King Woolens, and I'm really excited. It's not coming across right. This color is a beautiful purple. It's like a really nice purple, and it looks so gray on camera, but in person it's a beautiful purple. There's a little bit of blues popping out, but there's a lot of this orange and this cream color. So I want to make the mitts out of this, even though this is technically a bit of an Aran weight, but when I hold the strand, it thins out quite a bit into a worsted weight, so I think I'm going to go for it. And I'm going to do double pointed needles for the first time in a long time. I have never finished a project with DPNs before. I have always used Magic Loop, but I thought that this would be a great chance to practice using DPNs, and I even have the right size here. These are Loops and Threads DPNs from Michaels, because it's a 4mm that it calls for, and these are, in fact, 4mm. I don't know if I want to use just 4, if I want to use the 5th one to do 4 needles of stitches and then 1 to go, but I think that for my first DPN project, I think it would be better to have less potentials for ladders, you know? Not that I'm worried about it, because Magic Loop, you also have potential for ladders, and I always pull very tight on my first stitch. So, there you go. But thank you guys so much for watching this special edition, this special sweater edition of my craft podcast. I'm not going to do any recommendations or anything today just because it's like 9:03 a.m. I'm under caffeinated and I want to go get some knitting done on my slip stravaganza, which is coming along. I'm super close. I have 3 stripes of the chevrons now. I don't know if you can... Oh. Yeah, so I have 3 stripes of chevrons plus the triangle. It's really hard to tell on camera because the black and the gray are so similar on camera, but you can tell the difference. Like, this is gray, this is black. Can't really tell on camera, but in person, you can tell it's gray and black. You know? So I got 3 stripes plus the triangles, so I need 3 more stripes. So I need 1 stripe each of each color again. I'm in the middle of a row, probably not the best thing in the world. I'm on my back, going back across with my main color. So we're working away. I want to get some of that done because I have the day off today. And I'm looking forward to seeing you guys talking in the comments. Let me know if you've ever made a sweater before. If you have made a sweater, what was your very first sweater you've ever made? And if you're a prolific sweater knitter, what is your favorite pattern ever for sweaters? I'd love to know in the comments below because I definitely will be making some more sweaters, but I think I'm going to steer away from ones that are a lot of just straight knitting most of the time. Except, I don't know, because there's some beautiful sweaters that I love that have like the color work yoke and then just a plain bottom, which looks so good. So maybe now that I'm better at TV knitting, we'll do a little bit of that. We'll see. Leave me recommendations down below, and I will definitely give them a look, if not make them. Who knows? But thank you guys so much for watching today. I hope you have a great rest of your day, a great rest of your week, and just a little hint, maybe head on over to Fiber Chats with Irina from Fiber Chats for the Humans of the West Knits knit along, because you may see a familiar face over there. Maybe. I think it's coming out tomorrow. But have a great day. This ending is going on like crazy, and I don't want to edit this video, so you're just getting me being weird. I'm sorry. Bye. Love you lots. Bye.